Good evening, and welcome back to Points to Paint on For Fantasy's Sake. I am Doug, he is Sam, and we have ourselves a packed show tonight. We've been gone for a couple of weeks, and the whole world exploded. So, Mr. Sam, let's start by talking about all of these coaching changes that have happened. A couple of them, one of them even came down today, and there was a couple that happened yesterday.
Yeah.
So, starting back before our last show, so the Celtics made a bunch of front office changes. They're going to move Brad Stevens from the bench to the front office, so that opens up the coaching job there.
I didn't know that. I thought he was assuming president duties were still being a head coach like Doc Rivers used to do.
Oh, maybe I got it wrong. It's been a while since that story.
Yeah,
I might have that wrong. Yesterday, Stan Van Gundy was let go.
Surprise.
Scott Brooks in Washington, they couldn't come to a contract agreement. And then today, Rick Carlisle resigned.
I didn't even know Scott Brooks was gone. That's a surprise to me. That's unfortunate. I thought he was doing really good in Washington. Obviously, Washington was kind of in a rebuild and whatnot. Carlisle, I'm not surprised. I'd maybe just say maybe he's been there, a really long time, and maybe they want to look in a new direction. They got Luka. Luka's, in his only second or third year. So I think Dallas might be looking maybe to go with a younger coach or, former player like a point guard like a Jason Kidd or something like that. And Van Gundy was a surprise too. But then I heard that story about Zion saying he's not happy and stuff like that. And I think the Pelicans are just doing that to keep or David Griffin's just doing that to keep Zion happy. So. Yeah, that's unfortunate, though, for Stan because, he's got let go in Detroit, then he was somewhere else, and, he just can't seem to stick anywhere.
Yeah. Maybe he just needs to go into broadcasting like his brother. Because he was actually a really good broadcaster when he was doing games. So
I agree.
Jumping back to Dallas real quick, Donnie Nelson also resigned. It was this morning too. So that's their GM and their coach gone. So I think you're on the right track.
He's been there. Yeah, he's been there. Donnie Nelson's been there for a long time. He's been there. Yeah.
Yeah, and then he took over from his dad, Don Nelson, Rock Island legend, as well too.
Nice.
So that's been that Nelson control for a long time there. So yeah, maybe I'm thinking you're right. I think they're going to look to shake things up. With those, I guess my question to you is: out of those openings that are running around out there in the NBA, which one do you think is the most appealing job?
Probably was it Dallas, Washington, and New Orleans. Dallas is probably the most appealing because they've been making the playoffs, and you coach Luka. New Orleans is intriguing too because they have a nice lot of young talent: Zion, Brandon Ingram, Josh Hart, Jackson Hayes. Whatever happens with Lonzo, they have a nice young core. And then, Washington, I guess, nation's capital. I guess Washington's kind of they're going to have a top pick and they're rebuilding too. So, if you're, in a rebuild, Washington might be appealing to youth if they're going to clean house this summer, Westbrook and Bradley Beal. So I guess in the order, it'd probably be Dallas, New Orleans, and then Washington.
Yeah, that'd probably be my order as well. That makes the most sense with Luka down there. Really is kind of the draw. Not that Zion's not a good draw.
No, there's no state taxes in Texas too, right? So
exactly.
So that's more appealing. For a coach as well. So
absolutely. So that'll bring us up to speed on the coaching carousel. I guess tonight on the pregame, they were talking about if things go south for the Bucks tonight, that they might fire Coach Bud and look for another guy. But Woj made the point of who are you going to get to replace him that's going to be better than the guy that you've got now?
Nobody really, but I guess the guy you bring in has to have better schemes. And Giannis has continued to develop as a player. And that's kind of funny with that Coach Budenholzer because I think they just gave him a contract extension at the beginning of the season or something like that. He just got his contract extended, but I kind of felt like he kind of hit a wall with Milwaukee. And I don't think it's anything with him. I think it's Giannis. Giannis has to take that next step. He's got to be able to hit those perimeter shots. He's got to be able to take the best player down the road like LeBron has in the past and shut that player down and still score on the other end. He's got to become that Kevin Durant dominant. He's got to take that next step. But he can't do that yet because his offensive game is not where it needs to be. So,
no.
You're right. They could bring in anybody as a coach. It really won't matter at the end of the day.
Right. Yeah. Phil Jackson's not walking through that door.
No.
Yeah. That's a tough call for those guys. And yeah, they were talking tonight about Giannis really needs to step up his shooting touch. He's shooting 36% on jumpers. We talked about his free throw percentage being Bantha Poodoo. He really needs to work on that shooting touch and getting that confidence. And then he's really going to go in the stratosphere if he can get that part of his game down.
I agree.
Awesome. All right. So moving on from there then, a couple of other things. Yesterday was really a big news day. So it came out that CP3 is going to go into COVID protocols because evidently he has been in contact with that. And then like 20 minutes later, the news came out that Kawhi didn't play last night because of his knee, and I don't know about his status for tomorrow. So those two now, CP3's still got some time because the Suns have made it into the Western Conference Finals, and the other two teams are still battling it out, and they've got at least one more game to go. So he's got some time to maybe clear protocols before the series starts, or maybe only miss one game. Kawhi's knee might be more of the concern. Which one of those kind of worries you more?
So I honestly don't think CP3 is going to miss any games. I think the NBA could just at the last minute be like, we're going to test them 24 hours before, 12 hours before. We're going to just, make sure we'll test them like 12. We'll test them like, a few hours before the game to ensure that he's negative and then he'll play. Because, it's too big of a game to have him sit out, and especially if he's not, showing any symptoms or he doesn't test positive for it. I think he might be even getting tested daily now. Maybe they're like, all right, we'll quarantine at home, or we'll test you, whatever. Because it's just too big of a game for him to miss because of that. And then you see LeBron come out with that tweet about the injuries, and for him to miss a series when he's relatively healthy and he doesn't have COVID or anything. I'm not worried about the Chris Paul thing, and if anything, the worst case scenario, maybe that he misses one game, but I think that'll be kind of hard. I am worried about Kawhi's knee because that was kind of like late news that just kind of came out of nowhere. I don't know how serious that is, but it's his knee, so if it's bothering him. Now every time moving forward, they're gonna it's his knee. If he misses a shot, it's his knee. I wonder if it's something lingering, kind of like Dwayne Wade in the 2012 playoffs where his knee was just really bad. I think he had to get it drained, and he had like a bad ball breeze, but he played through it and they won a championship. But ultimately, he just needed rest or something like that. So I wonder how serious Kawhi's is. If it's like a fracture or something.
Yeah, I don't know. They're not going to tell us if it's something that serious.
No.
Obviously, Paul George looked good last night, so that makes them feel better about maybe they can sneak in one more before having to move on to the Western Conference Finals. Maybe.
Hopefully.
Yeah. All right. The other news that came out here in the last couple of days was Rookie of the Year and MVP. So no surprise, Lonzo got Rookie of the Year, and then Jokic was your MVP there, which I don't think really was a big surprise either. What was kind of your take on both of those? The right guys got picked there?
Jordan Clarkson and or LaMelo Ball and Jokic. Yeah, Jokic is phenomenal. I love watching him play and the way he plays. He definitely deserved it. He's he played consistent. He played, I think it's every game. And yeah, he came in ready to play, especially when Jamal Murray went down. He still continued to play at a high level. So I definitely think he deserves it. And I do think LaMelo Ball deserves Rookie of the Year. I know I'm a big Pat Williams guy, but LaMelo Ball was just more spectacular overall. And obviously, him being a point guard and, just him being able to excite that Charlotte, Hornets franchise, that goes a long way. And they made the playoffs too. So I can't, say, hey, he was a big part of that. And they probably would have had a higher seed if he didn't get hurt. Remember, he got hurt and missed all those games with that wrist injury. Mm-hmm. They thought he was out for the year, and he came back and whatnot. And he's going to be a nice player to watch for years, for years to come. Yeah, and come from he didn't go to college. He played overseas and played for his dad's league, and ultimately ended up going top 3 in the draft.
Yeah, yeah. For as much as I don't like their dad. The ball kids can play. They really do, and they seem to have their heads screwed on straight.
Yeah, see, their dad's been really quiet lately. I mean, you
Yeah.
haven't heard anything from their dad. I mean, I think people were kind of blowing it out of proportion. But if your dad is confident in you, he's just confident in his sons, and he talks them up, that's completely fine. You see, you don't hear anything going on with him at all. So he definitely did his job. He got his kids to the.
Exactly. For Jokic, a little bit of controversy with his last game in the playoffs. Getting tossed there on a thing that he probably shouldn't have. That most of the world thinks he shouldn't have been tossed for, except for folks in New York and him. Yeah, that's what I kind of thought. But I wanted to see how you felt about that.
Yeah, he shouldn't have got tossed for that. I think the refs were kind of just maybe overreacting. They didn't want it to escalate to anything. They knew Denver was on the verge of getting swept. They were just, being more preventative than anything. All right, this could be bad. And then, if we keep him in the game, maybe the next possession, one of the Denver teammates takes a shot at him and a scuffle ensues. His tempers are flaring, about to lose the series and stuff like that. So I bet the refs are just trying to, do damage control more than anything. So I definitely don't take any stock in that at all.
Right. And then the other thing with the MVP voting, I guess some folks were flipping out because Derrick Rose got one first place vote in the whole thing.
That was a fan vote, though. The fans voted. Yeah, the
Okay.
fans voted for that. I think, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I thought it was a writer because everybody, when it came out, everybody was losing their damn minds on Twitter. And
I swear, people people lose their minds. If you come out with your top 5 players and somebody doesn't agree with it, people literally lose their mind. At the end of the day, you have to understand those are his opinions.
Right.
What he feels. And people just lose sight of that. If people want to vote if fans want to vote for Derrick Rose, obviously MVP, and this and that, and it's one vote, it's not going to affect at all. Fans are, who's reported or who's it? I mean, just let it go.
Yes, as the former sports reporter who used to also have to put together high school all-star teams at the end of the season, that day when that hit publication, I always held my breath because you knew somebody's mom or dad was reaching out to you and saying, "Hey, what about my kid?" Just inevitably, they're not high enough. They didn't make the list. They should have been on there. So it's the same thing all over again, just at a professional level.
You can't please everyone, I swear.
Exactly. All right, cool. So that takes us to the actual play on the court then. So we talked a little bit about CP3 and how he's going to get some rest time. Phoenix swept Denver, rolled really right past them to go right into the Western Conference Finals. The Clippers are up 3-2 right now. So let's stick with the Western Conference Final, the Western Conference for right now. So Clippers are up 3-2. Phoenix has already moved on. What did you think about the Phoenix series? Does that kind of play out the way that you expected?
I did expect Phoenix to sweep Denver. I knew Denver would struggle because they just don't have that dynamic guard now that Murray's out. Austin Rivers is good, but he's not, he asked him to do that, to play at that level, on a series is too much. I mean, Austin Rivers is better being a 6-man, coming off the bench and being a spark plug, but asking him to play 30-plus minutes, and they're just not his game. You saw that. And then Campazzo's a good player, but they're not Jamal Murray. So if they had Jamal Murray, it would definitely be a different series. They're definitely good enough. They were good. I mean, and they were missing Gary Harris too. They traded Gary Harris at the trading deadline. He's another, veteran guard they had there, 2 guard they had there who could, definitely score. So it wasn't, it was a new Denver team. Aaron Gordon kind of makeshift on the fly. So I'm not surprised that they lost that second round series. This Phoenix team is being led by Chris Paul. Veteran point guard. They got, Devin Booker, dynamic, DeAndre, who's playing good down low. You got your wing players and Crowder and Mikal Bridges. You got Cam Payne off the bench. You got, Cam Johnson off the bench. There's just other guys. I want to say Saric as well. Yep, Saric, and who can hit shots. And, Johnson can hit threes. Saric can hit threes. Cam Payne can attack in the paint. You know what I'm saying? So they're a gritty Phoenix team, and they're led by Chris Paul, who's a veteran. So I'm not surprised at all in that series the way it turned out. Remember when Chris Paul played for OKC last year and they were challenging Houston? With the team he had literally a bunch of rookies, and first and second year players, and they made it to the playoffs. They won a couple games from Houston in that series. You know, the other series, Utah, the Clippers. I think the Clippers might win that series, and I don't know what happened with Mike Conley. He's been out the whole series. He's supposed to be back with the hamstring, so I think just Utah doesn't have that second playmaker along Donovan Mitchell, so that's really hurting them, especially in this series. If they had Mike Conley, I mean, I think the Jazz probably would have won the series already in 6. So I think the Clippers will win the series, and it's actually going to be pretty good if the Clippers and Suns go up, because I don't know if you remember, like in the earlier this year, the season, Devin Booker and Paul George got into a serious altercation. Devin Booker was calling them, all kinds of curse words and cursing them out, and Paul George got really mad. He was like, yeah, people are just disrespecting me, and I'm tired of it, I'm saying that. So, there's definitely going to be some jawing between those two teams. You got Jay Crowder playing for the Suns, so, he likes to jaw a lot, and you got Morris on the Clippers, and I think they've gotten to it before too, if I remember correctly. I think the Morris brother and Jay Crowder got into it in one game too, and so there'll definitely be it'll be a physical series, and I think that'd be a really good series if it's the Clippers and Suns. So I kind of want that. But Jazz, I think they kind of reached their cap. I mean, they can win the 1 seed and win a round or two, but they'll never. I doubt I'd ever see them advance past the Western Conference Finals, much less make a Western Conference Finals. I feel like they're always going to flame out in the second round.
Yeah, they're a little bit bipolar. They look good. They look good sometimes, and sometimes not so great.
That's right. So they'll never get over that hump and win a championship unless they're like super stacked and something like that. And I mean, not a lot of people want to go to Utah and play, but Donovan Mitchell is there, so you never know.
Yeah, he can go nuts for 50, almost 60 again.
Yep.
that forgives a lot of sins. Okay, switching over to the Eastern Conference. Let's talk a little bit. Let's start with the game that's playing, or the series that's going on right now with the Nets and the Bucks. The Nets first 2 games, I was like, the only thing that's going to stop the Nets is either going to be injuries or the turnovers. So I think they had a bunch of turnovers in Game 3, and that's where the Bucks picked up their first win in the series. And I'm like, okay, this is kind of their Achilles heel. And then the Bucks looked pretty good, and then they blew Game 5. And I'm like, okay, they don't look great. And then KD went nuts in Game 5 and just like took over the world. So now now they're losing again tonight. So I don't know how to feel about this series.
I think it's the healthiest team's going to win it. Whoever's the more healthier of a team is going to win it. Milwaukee's shooting too many threes in this series too. They're not taking advantage of their sides. Brook Lopez is playing more. He's not shooting as many threes, but they're still settling for too many threes, and they're not making Brooklyn work as much defensively as they could. I think they can move the ball more and attack more and force Brooklyn to work, force like Blake Griffin to defend, force Kevin Durant to move, set screens, all within the confines of the game. You know what I'm saying? You can be physical, setting screens and posting him up, just that contact, you know what I'm saying? Because, he doesn't like, that, wear him down. He's one of the best players in the world, if not the best player in the world. So wear Kevin Durant down. Same thing with James Harden. Came back from the hamstring, and they didn't even really attack him on defense.
Yeah,
so
he's hobbling around out there tonight.
His numbers look better. I checked his numbers earlier. He had like 8 points, like 3 assists, 3 rebounds. He was shooting like 4 or 5. Like his numbers look really good. I'm going to check him here in a second. But ultimately, if Milwaukee loses this series, into Brooklyn, I guess it's no shame, but it's still at the same time, it's like, hey, you got to get back to the drawing board. And if you're Milwaukee, if you're Giannis, you got to develop the outside game. Mm-hmm. You can't keep attacking. I mean, he's playing better tonight. He's got 19 points and 11 rebounds at half. But like we said earlier, he's probably missed a boatload of free throws. Let me check. He's 3 for 7 from the line. Mm-hmm. It's not great. But, he's going to the line a lot, so he's attacking. I do like that. If you go to the free throw line 9 times and a half, 7 times and a half, that's a good sign. He's attacking.
Yeah. And nobody's asking him to be like Steve Kerr, John Paxson, tons of 3-point shots. But if he could have a serviceable mid-range 12 to 15 to 17-foot jumper, that opens up the world for him down low. If he can have that, he's gold.
You don't think he can learn that Tim Duncan bank shot? I mean, because you know guys are going to sag off him anyways because they don't want him to drive past him. So
Exactly.
he faces up, you know how to get an angle, jab step, and just bank it every time.
Yeah.
And just he gets that nice little mid-range game going where at the high post, he flashes the high post, catches it at the free throw line, and he can fake like he's going to pass it, and then he just settles in a nice little mid-range touch. He can get that down. And as far as three-pointers go, just get a set three-point shot, Doug. Just go baseline, start out like PJ Tucker and just shoot baseline threes. Those are the shortest ones of the things. You get down, so catch and shoot. I mean, just work on your mechanics, you know. You can do that. I mean, you gotta tweak your mechanics a bit. I mean, Lonzo Ball just did it. You can do it. And just work on getting a nice set three-point shot so other guys can drive and they kick to you, and it makes it you that much more dangerous. Because if you hit one or two set ones, the next one you get ready to take, the defender's gonna fly at you, and then you could just attack the paint. And I mean, you could choose to attack and draw a foul. You can drive and kick. You'll get a much better shot. But they don't respect you offensively, so you gotta do something about that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if he can add another element there, he's already 2-time MVP, but he becomes even greater than that. So that's really what he needs to do. He needs to do there. Other series, this thing has been wild, man. Atlanta and Philly.
You remember our last time on there? Remember when I said Atlanta's got some depth, so this is going to make things challenging for Philly, and that's exactly what we're seeing.
They're gritty, man. They don't quit.
They can go 12 deep.
Yeah. And Trae Young is just he should have been in the MVP conversation the way that he's been. At least now, postseason. If there's such a thing as a postseason MVP, he's right at the top of my list. He's been playing insane.
If you have a dynamic guard like Trae Young leading your team, and you have a bunch of shooters and perimeter players, you have a big and Capella, John Collins, who's nice, very nice. You know, they have a good team, and they have a good coach. Nate McMillan's a great coach. In Philadelphia, you know, Joel Embiid's kind of hobble. Let's call it what it is, because he looks good in the first half, and in the second half, he just looks like he's gassed. I see him driving all the time and just playing around. I'm like, man, I play basketball. I play guys like that at the pickup gym who just don't have anything left in the tank, and I'm like, that's how Embiid looks. Maybe you want to look at playing Howard more in the first half, keeping Embiid fresh. Maybe, I don't know, but I think Atlanta can close this series out. I'm telling you, I'm not surprised at all in the least bit, because Atlanta's depth. I remember they played the Bulls the first game of the season. They just ran over us. They were just coming in waves upon waves. I mean, at one point they had Rondo and they had Chris Dunn. And Chris Dunn was their third string point guard, but behind Trae Young. I mean, they got Lou Williams, who can come off the bench, veteran, who's a closer, who can hit big shots. I mean, they have a good team, so they're definitely. I mean, if they match up against Brooklyn, I think they can. I think they would still lose to Brooklyn, or Milwaukee, just because they don't have anybody to guard Giannis or KD respectfully. But I still think they can probably challenge them. It'd be a tough out. They'd still compete.
Yeah, I agree. That's a series. No matter who they're playing, that's at least a 6-game series.
Exactly.
That's a dog. You're in a dogfight at that. Yep. Yeah. So that should be interesting to see kind of how those shake out, especially if Atlanta can pull that off tomorrow night, because the game's in Atlanta tomorrow. So
it's going to be rocking tomorrow night.
Yeah.
It's going to be.
Yeah, that's gonna be crazy town down there in hot Atlanta.
Man, I'm going out of town tomorrow night. I'm going camping, so I'm not gonna have no reception or anything either. I won't even be by a TV.
Yeah, it's my wife's birthday, so unless they've got a TV in the restaurant, then I'm probably
they might, depending on the restaurant. I don't know if they're gonna have a game on.
Yeah, it kind of depends on hit and miss there where she wants to go. So that should be an entertaining game tomorrow, and it should be another entertaining. And then if it does get to Game 7, all bets are off in that game. That's going to be nuts on. That'd make it Sunday. Yeah, Sunday game. If Philly manages to pull that out tomorrow, for that series.
Awesome. I mean, Doc Rivers is talking like Philly's going to be back for Game 7, but I think Doc might just be talking a little over his head. And then Philly lost Danny Green like that for the series, and so they lost another shooter. So Ben Simmons is further making things difficult for Ben Simmons, because if he had Danny Green and Steph Curry, then He probably had more room to operate, but not having that other shooter kind of hurts. So
yeah, so yesterday or last night with that collapse that they had, they were up huge. The only two people who scored in the second half were Embiid and Simmons only took one field goal.
Jesus, that's it?
That's it in the second half.
Tobias Harris had a horrible game on his stats.
Yeah, so he has to be more aggressive in the second half, and the rest of the team has to realize that the guys are, they've shifted the focus to the stars, and the rest of the other three guys on the floor have to pick that up.
Other guys have to make shots. Tobias Harris, you have to make shots. Tyrese Maxey, I think, can use some more time. The same thing with Shake Milton. I like Shake Milton in the fourth quarter because he's a really good closer. And yeah, I mean, the other guys, what's his name? I can't say his name. Matthias Thybulle, Frank Korkmaz. They got to go in there and just contribute. Hey, this guy comes in, Korkmaz, you hit 2 threes. Matthias Thybulle, you have a couple points. Just other guys have to step up, take the load off Embiid. You see Embiid and how he looks lethargic in the second half. Like other guys have to come to play, what I'm saying, or play off of him in the first half. But other guys have to play. Simmons has got to be that. Simmons, the thing that really was with Ben Simmons is he doesn't have that. The same thing that was just killing Andrew Wiggins now is he doesn't have that killer instinct. It's like you see it, like it's like you don't have that. If your opponent's on the ropes, you don't have that killer instinct to put the game away. Exactly. You don't want to have that. You don't want to have that label on you because guys won't want to play with you. And now it's like everybody's seeing like, man, you only took like 2 shots in the second half. Like, I'm like, no, dude, attack. I'm like, oh, he doesn't want to. He doesn't want to go. So that's saying you're not mentally strong if you don't want to attack because you don't want to get fouled and shoot free throws. You got to face those demons. I mean, and if other players smell that kind of blood, they're gonna.
Yeah. You're an all-star. You're the number 2 option on that team. If they're starting to roll to Embiid because Embiid had the big first half,
they were triple teaming Embiid at one point.
Yeah, you've got to be aware of that and be ready for your opportunity to get the pressure back off of him. So that's your job. So yeah, he's got to step up in the next game.
If you don't have it in him, Doug, I don't think he's got it in him. And I think, that's okay if you're not that type of player, but you can't build a team around that kind of player.
No. Yeah, you got to have somebody with a little bit of dog in him, which is exactly what Trae Young has. He's got all of that.
And then his offensive deficiencies, I'm going, he's a good player, but you got to play him with people who he plays well off of and who are really offensively good players where offense isn't his even prerogative. Like, maybe you're just a playmaker and this and that, but he's still going to be a liability if he's not willing to, take jump shots and stuff like that. So, but the thing with Simmons is he's still young. He'll be 25 this year. Yeah, he's turned 25 this summer if I'm correct. And so he's still young and he can still learn that killer instinct, like kind of like LeBron kind of did when he went to Miami. But yeah, maybe they just need one of those crafty veterans, a Thad out there to kind of show them the ropes. Not that we'd want to lose Thagic, but no, not at all.
But that's the type of player that they need coming off the bench to showing them how to finish people off.
Yeah, he should, man. But he's had Jimmy Butler around him. He's had all these other. JJ Redick. He's had. That's what I'm saying. If you ain't got it in you, you ain't got it in you. But you play with Jimmy Butler, dude. Like Jimmy's like the ultimate, tall. Jimmy took a practice squad team and beat the first stringers. And Jimmy trash. I've heard audio of Jimmy Butler trash talking when he trash talked Karl Anthony Towns. And Jimmy Butler does not back down for nobody.
Oh no.
And you play with them, you were in this locker room and stuff like that. And I'm like, maybe I'm just different. I just know if I have a chance, put the team away.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Yeah. So, yeah, it's not a good situation there, and that might cause some type of shakeup especially if they get blown out in this next game. If it looks bad again,
that's true. They could blow up that core, and they've been talking about that for the longest. I think they'd probably trade Simmons and see if they can get back a lot more pieces to build around Embiid, because they still got they got young guards like Tyrese Maxey and Shake Milton.
Mhm.
And I mean, if you just have Simmons and then Harris still, then that means you can bring in I bring in draft picks and young talent and then sign some veterans and fill out your team.
Yeah, that might be the way to go for them there. Cool. Well, it should be an interesting weekend, and then we'll get into the conference finals next week, and then we'll have kind of a clearer picture as to what's going on.
Clearer, yep. Clearer picture.
Sort of. All righty, man. Well, I think that will do it. Unless there's anything else you want to talk about.
No, I'm good. I'm actually going to start packing for my trip. So yeah.
All right. Well, you have yourself a safe journey, sir.
Thank you very much.
All right. And then for everyone else, we will see you guys next time.
Enjoy your weekend, folks.
Yep. Bye-bye.